Okay, thank you everyone for joining us. My name is Abbas Ali and I'm the host for LaravelNagpur meetup. This will be our 51st meetup since 2019. And we were able to conduct regular meetups every month, all because of you, because you have shown interest and you have been coming to the meetup every month. So thank you to everyone, to the entire community. Now I request everyone to please switch on your cameras so that we can take a photo. Mohin, Rakesh, Neha, Arvindan, Manu, Komal, Kunal, Akash. If you have cameras, then please switch it on. Great. Kunal, Mohin, Neha. Okay, thank you everyone. I'm just taking a few snaps. Thank you. Okay, so without any further ado, I'd like to introduce you all to the speaker for today. We have Maharsh Mangal with us. He is a senior software developer with Ranium Systems. He's a full stack programmer, and lately he has been hacking Slack using Laravel. And that's what his topic is for today. So, Maharsh, please start. Thank you.
Hi, hello everyone. Can you hear me right? Hello.
Yes, we can hear
Okay,
you.
okay, good. So let me just introduce myself first. It's the same thing that Sir already said. I'm a full stack developer at Trinium here for the past 2 years, and today we are going to talk about how to make Slack apps. Okay. The point of this is how to save your time, how to increase your productivity, how to be efficient with Slack, because Slack is something which is very popular in the tech space. So what I'm talking about is, let me just show you. So can you see my screens, everyone? So
Yes, we
this
can
is
see your screen.
mhm. So simple Laravel app. There are some titles, there are some descriptions added by. I'll show you the code here. Okay, this is our project. We have some users. We have some users. Those users have some posts, and in the user model, we have many posts, and each post belongs to a user. Simple enough. Now what we're going to do is, I'm just showing a listing here, and if you want to create a post, then you just go here and some title and some description, and you create it, it just shows here. Okay, now what we're going to do, this is a very simple task. Okay, this does not need any efficiency management, but imagine that you have something that requires 2 or 3 more clicks. Then what you're going to do is, suppose you so I've made this Slack workshop workspace, and someone sends you something here. So if I send that task for today is something. Now how do I like, I'll have to copy from here, I'll have to go to Chrome, I have to log in, then create one record for me myself. So in order to save time, what we can do is something like this: add post. Shit, sorry, my bad. Uh, I think my ngrok expired, guys. Let me just restart it. Right. Let's try it again. So we can do something like this. We can introduce a slash command. We can just write title from Slack, so we know description from Slack, and we submit this. And here we have the title from Slack and description from Slack. So in order to save time, in order to save a few clicks here and there, we are doing this. So how do we do this now? For this, we need two things. We need a workspace and we need a Slack app. So let's get on with it. We'll make a workspace, create a new workspace from Slack. I'll just use my official email. Wait for the code. And we'll just make this, we'll skip this step, type something. So this is our new workspace. Now we need a Slack app. For Slack apps, what we need to do is we need to go to Slack API, first link there, your apps. Here we need to create a new app, and let's name this add post test. We select a workspace, Laravel meetup. We create this app. Now, every third-party service that we work with, there are two things that we need to configure in our env file. Those two things are typically client ID and a client secret. So in Slack, uh, it is available right here inside basic information. Then we'll go here. client ID and client secret. So I've made this Slack 2 app for making the demo app right here on the call. So let's make a database for it. We'll create a new database here. Close this. We'll do Slack 2 and we'll open Slack 2. We'll go into our project. This is a different Slack one. So first of all, and we will check if the database name is right. It is. So we can head on over to these three things, these two things actually. That's not. So we need client Slack client ID and client secret for authentication purposes. So let's go here. Inside your directory, what will happen is client ID and you'll get a client secret and a signing secret. Signing secret is something that we'll discuss later if we have time. But for now, let's focus on client ID and client secret. Uh, I'll open this app inside my Slack desktop app. So it's more. So this is our app. We have a something channel that we entered, and it's just me in the workshop right now. What we're going to do is copy this, put it in the inside the env, copy client secret. कोई यूज मत करना है ना. Now go to services, make a new Slack. Array for client ID. I'm going to take env Slack. ID. And for client secret, we're going to take env client secret. Okay, done with these two. Now what we're going to do is understand how the request cycle works. So what happens when I do this? Let us go back to this and I'll pull up a screenshot of a diagram. So the first is I enter the slash command. The slash command is entered. When I press enter, it goes to um, where is it? Slack sends me a request on my on a URL that I give to it. Okay, then I receive that request and I tell Slack what to do with that request. Then Slack takes that request and it executes it. Then this is like this step is mostly what you will need in your Slack projects. But suppose you want some user input, you want to engage the user, you want to collect some data, then what you're going to do is you'll put fields inside it that the user can interact with. Now, when the user submits that information, Slack is going to send you that information back and you can receive it and do what needs to be done with it. All right. Uh, for that, we need to configure our app mm, at a few locations. Let's see them. First of all, we need to create a slash command. Okay, let's create a slash command called add post. Oh, by the way, this is also okay. I completely forgot to run migrations here. PHP. Do I have migrations? Okay. So PHP artisan migrate, and we have tables here: users table, post table, and basic Laravel things. So we'll go here and we'll register a user. So let's rename. I'm using this email because this is registered on Slack, so we'll get a user out of it. 128 and does not exist. Okay, this is your basic Laravel table, and we're going to seed the database right now. So what we're going to do is come here and PHP artisan db seed. So this is the same thing that you saw in the last one. You can create a post here. Now, how do you connect this Laravel app to your Slack app? So for that, what you need to do is you need to configure the URLs that Slack is going to send you requests on. So we'll come back here. We'll add posts. We'll configure a URL. Now this URL needs to be something that is hosted. So we can't use our local host. So for that, what we're going to do is we're going to use ngrok. Now we'll clear this and we'll go to new tab and we're going to do this and we'll do it for Slack to wire. Going to copy this hosted URL and paste it here. Let's say add post, or yeah, let's just do add post, add some post, and we're going to save it. Now, most of the apps that you're going to need is um, this is all the configuration that that you're going to do. You can install the app from here, and when you install it, it's going to generate an OAuth token that you can use to verify the requests. All right. But what if you want to distribute the app? You want to make the app public for anyone to add it to their workspace. In that case, what we're going to do is we're going to configure OAuth and permissions for it. So for that, we need another table. So our app is basically communicating with one Laravel app, that is our app that is controlling it. So we need to save everyone's OAuth token there and what workspace the token is valid for. For that, what we're going to do is we're going to create a migration. PHP artisan make migration Slack config table. You can name it whatever you want. Just named it Slack config. I think this is already Slack config. What we're going to do is table has a user ID, which so one user can be in many workspaces, right? You can have your company Slack, your friend Slack, your personal Slack, all with the same email. So to segregate that, we're going to do a foreign ID here with user ID, which is constrained to users, and this cascades on delete. We're going to make a string, which is a Slack user ID. We're going to save the OAuth token of the workspace. So Slack token, and we are going to say what workspace the token is added for. All right, feel free to stop me in case you have any questions or queries. Okay, that's about it. Yeah, we can migrate it. And there has to be something. I'm in a different workspace. I'm so sorry. Not ID, user ID. Oh, string. Open user ID and Slack workspace ID. Let's go and we have a Slack configs table with all the fields. Oh, sorry. So what we're going to do is we're going to configure some auth permissions and URLs for our app to install in our workspace. For that, let me just create, let me go into this auth permissions. We're going to redirect it to our local app. This can work with a local app because it's just redirecting it. It's not sending a request on this. So HTTPS will go to Slack 2.test auth authorize. You can put anything here. I'm just putting it. We're going to save URLs and then we're going to manage distributions and make it public. We're going to check that we have not put any hard-coded information right here, and we have got this button. So we're going to copy this uh, and go back to code in our dashboard. We're going to put it right here. Shoot. So in our app, we should have an add to Slack button right here. Now what happens when I click this is it's going to ask me permissions, but we need to set those permissions first. So to set those permissions, what we're going to do is we're going to go back into auth and permissions, and we're going to add scopes to it. Commands, we already made a slash command, so the command is already there. But for this to work, we need the user and the user email. to link the user to our uh, Laravel app. So we're going to do users read email, that is going to ask us backup permission for users read. So add those both scopes, and you go back to manage distribution, and the scope should come right here. User read email, and commands. These three permissions that we want. Going to go here and paste it. Now, when we click on add to Slack, it's going to send a request on auth. It's going to redirect it, sorry. Going to redirect to us to auth authorize. So let's make a route for that. Web.php. It's going to send us a get request. Um, slash authorize. And let's make a controller for it as well. PHP artisan make controller Slack controller. And we'll name the method something like start auth. Now, what is happening here is this request will always fail. Why? Because this is not coming from our Laravel app. From Laravel app, any request that comes here is CSRF verified. So there is no CSRF token in this request. So this will not make it to our controller itself. This will always fail. To circumvent that, what we're going to do is we're going to exclude this from the list of things that we are going to uh, check for CSRF tokens. We did this. Now the request should be on our ngrok server. We clear this. Uh, Let me just double check once. Yeah. So if we add to Slack and we add it to Laravel meetup and we allow it, then we don't get a request here. Great. Oh, I forgot to save it. My bad. Sorry. Let's go into the Slack controller itself and return. And we get an OK. So the request is coming up to here. Now what we need to do is, what happens is, uh, if Slack sends us a or token in the get request, it will be very like borderline irresponsible of them because anyone can see that. So what they do is that send us a temporary token which we can exchange in exchange of permanent token. So for doing anything with Slack, we use web API methods that Slack provides us with. So if you go to web API Slack and web API methods. So this is the list of all the things that you can do with Slack. You can do all kinds of things. There are some deprecated methods, but you can read up on it. The thing we need to do right now is OAuth access. So what it does is exchanges a temporary OAuth verify code for an access token. The code will be sent to us with this request. If you see the URL, the code is here. This code is valid for about 2-3 seconds that we can exchange it with. So there are multiple methods you can go around, look around, like play with these. Mm, so let's get the token now. So we're going to code, or better yet, temp code, code to request code. Then what we need is client ID. Okay, let's see what we need. First, we need client ID, client secret, and a code. These three things that we need to get an authentication token. So client ID we entered in the date env file. So config services slack client ID, client secret same way. Now to exchange the token, what we're going to do is we're going to create a response which says send an HTTP request with basic auth. Okay, send the client ID and the client secret here. This is form URL encoded, so we need to send this as form. And we're going to send a post request here. All of this is mentioned right here. This is a post request on this. We need to hit this URL with these parameters. All right. The info for the usage is also given here. This is a successful response, alternate response. There's a lot of things that are given here. So you're free to go and read up on it if you want. We're going to send it on a URL with some parameters. Code. We already have a temp code here. And we're going to throw going JSON it. Going to copy this URL that we need to hit. We're just hard coding everything right now. But you're free to put this in a protected variable here and use it as you see fit. Okay. Now, what we get as a response is something like this. From this, what we need to fill inside the table is user ID. This we don't have right now. Slack token will get here. Slack user ID will get here, and we'll get a Slack workspace ID. So let's get three things and worry about the fourth later. So token will be puts token, response, and access token. Response and access token. What is Slack user ID? It's response auth user ID. Not user ID. And workspace ID is response team ID. Response team ID. Now we have these three things that are ready to save, but we need a foreign ID that we need to save with it. That is the user ID. Now, how do we know what user is doing this? So we're going to equate that user with the help of female. For that, what we need to do is we need to call another method. See, I showed you there are several methods here. So we set all scopes for user email and user info, user read and user read email. For this very purpose itself, there is a method called, let me find it, users.info, which will give us the user email right here. Right now, we have for this we need a token we already got from v2 access, and we need the user id also we got. Great. Now let's send a user request to http, and this is a get request on this url as form with token. Going to get on a url with params as user user on snap. This is the url that we need to hit. Oh, jeez. So we are completely ignoring error handling in this. We'll do it if we get another chance, but we should get a response like this. Okay. Now all this information is complete garbage. We don't need it. We just need the email. All right. So email will be response user profile email. And we already did the permissions for it. So we should get the email. If we didn't do permissions for read email, this field would be omitted in the response. Okay. So let's just do user email here. Okay, let's show you once that it is working right now. We're going to return a response, and let's JSON encode user. So if we go here, if we add to Slack, then we should get this response, which is, let's parse it. JSON parse. This is our response. And if we go to response user profile, and we get the email right here. So actually, let's skip the variable and do this itself. We're going to go into user, we're going to go into profile, and then email. And then if we just do this, I think we should get my email that is in Slack right now. We got the email. And if I show it to you, then this is the email that we are using. All right. So far, so good. Now we got the user email. Finding the user is pretty easy here. Um, User is user. Where email is this? First, I'm going to import all the classes. Uh, and now what we're going to do is save the Slack config. So uh, let's go into the user model. We're going to define, we already defined Slack configs here. The user can have many Slack configs. So by this relation, what we can do is user Slack configs create. And since this is the foreign ID, we can just pass on the different fields that are required. Slack token, Slack user ID. We already had it right here. Slack workspace ID is workspace ID. Config. Let's add Slack user ID here. And we have a relation in Slack config to it belongs to a user. Okay. After that, what we're going to do is to go back. So this is saved, and what we're going to do is redirect to dashboard. Now you can handle the redirection or whatever the flash banner. If you're using Jetstream, you can flash a banner that says Slack app installed or whatever. But for the sake of this presentation, what we're going to do is we're just going to hide the add to Slack button, this one. So let's just go to the dashboard, and auth if user has a Slack config, then we don't show it, and if the user does not have a Slack config, we show it. All right, pretty self-explanatory. So we add this to Slack, we add this to Laravel meetup, and I keep misplacing the cursor. And it is gone from here. Now, if we see in Slack, add post test is added here, and we should have the entry in the database too. With Slack config, we have the workspace ID, we have the Slack user ID, and this points to my email. All right. So this part is just integrating uh, Slack app into your workspace. The next part is how do we create the Slack command and take an entry out of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to slash commands, add here.
Hello.
Yeah.
I have one question. You have, um, can you open web.php?
Yeah. Just a second. Okay. Web.php.
Right. So here you have a gate route, right?
Yeah.
Auth authorized, right?
Hmm.
So, like, do we need to disable CSRF token for this gate route? Because, like, I don't think we need to do it.
Okay. Let's try and do this without it, and we'll see. So this is gone. No requests are made to this. And actually, to see the incoming requests, let's just put this one to the redirect URL as well. Mm, Auth and permissions. We're going to do this instead of this. We're just going to. All right. Now let's delete that entry from. So we have the add to Slack button. Visit site. And
There is a no session for that particular URL because it, you have to log in that particular URL.
just give me a second. I think we need to, yeah.
Login.
Mhm. But you won't have a login here. This, do we have working? Go to Laravel meetup. Allow this. Then yeah, it works. Yeah, good catch. We don't need a CSRF token in a GET request. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Another thing is like I have two questions actually. Another question
Yeah.
is like see I am the type of user which doesn't use same email for every platform. So my Slack email and my like platform email cannot be the same. Then like do we have any options to get user ID?
That depends on your use case. If you have a different user ID, then I suggest putting a user ID column in the users table itself.
No, no, I mean my Slack email is not matching to the platform email.
Mm-hmm.
Like where I want to add the post.
Yeah,
Uh,
so in that case, what you can do is you can just go into the users table and you can add just one column here that says Slack user ID.
okay, okay, got it,
So
got it.
yeah, so instead of email, you can match it with Slack user ID.
But how will I get a Slack user ID before, like,
Hmm?
how, like, user will add it? Okay, okay, I think user will add it, right? While registering.
User will only register. So if you're registering from Slack, there has to be one email, right?
Yeah, I got it. But
Mhm.
like, how will I get the Slack user ID? Like, user will
If
add it
you
while registering.
Yeah, no, Slack user ID is something that we receive in the response itself.
But
If
how can I?
we
Sorry. So then, how can I save this into the users table without knowing, like, for which user it is?
So you have to equate it with one thing or the other. Like if
Okay, no
you
problem.
yeah,
It's okay, no problem.
if you don't
Kunepal,
want
yes, you will, while registering, the user will put this like ID in the database table.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah. Either I mean, they can either put the Slack user ID or the Slack email. So we can have two different columns in users table. One will be the email
okay,
which is being used in Laravel for authentication, and there
yes,
can be
got
another field for Slack email that they use for Slack purposes.
it. Thank you.
all right. Let's move ahead then. Anything else, Puripal?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bob. What? Where were we? Um, yeah, we were making a slash command. So now, when we make a slash command, Slack will send us a post request on this URL that we post here. And if the request, so let's make a route for it. Post, and we'll put, what did we put there? Add post. We'll put it in post controller. I'll put it in store from or something. Now we'll go into post controller. Show, what was it? Sorry, get a request here, and let's just return a response. Okay. So since this is a post request, now it will fail. Okay. Let's try and do that. So this is all the things that we need to do in the browser. We can close this, we can close. Let's keep this open only. We already have linked the Slack to it, so no need for this. As you can see, we already have an entry here. Now we can move over to Slack. So since we've made a Slack command for it, a slash command for it, this is just available. Okay, add post test has a slash command of add post. Now if we do that, it will fail. Why? Because add post could not be found. Did we make some mistake? This right here. Block free or add post. Oh, we forgot to save this every time. So add post, post controller, show add post mode. Now let's see if it's something other than 404. No, it's this.
.php was not saved.
Okay, so CSRF has failed because it is a post request now, right? So what we need to do is go into the CSRF token and just get here and see add post has to be excluded from CSRF matching. So we can go back into it. It says okay, because that's the response that we return to it, but that's not what we want with it. So to make models like we did in the demo app, we will use another method of it, Slack, which is views.open. So essentially what, uh, let me see if I can get a whiteboard here. Okay, so if you know the HTML box model, let's go over it. Can you see the whiteboard?
Yes.
Okay. So how a Slack message is, how Slack message or modal or app service, anything is constructed is, there is one surface. I can write it properly. Inside that, there is a block, and inside that, there is a element. This is how it is constructed. So first is surface, second is block, and third is element. And inside element, there are objects, but we will not go into it this time. So surfaces are three things. Surfaces can be messages, messages like let's go here again. Messages like the messages we send here, right? This is a surface. Models, like the one I showed you there, and app home, which is right here. So this is app home, this is app home. All the things that are here are app home. To make a model, to open a model, we need to access the views.open method. So if we go here and we scroll down to views, views.open. This is the method that where we need to give the payload to Slack. So okay, we have completed this step. Uh, this step. This step. This step. So we have entered the slash command. Slack has sent us the request. Now we need to do receive that request and send the JSON back to Slack to tell it what to do with that request. Right? Slack said that that command has been executed. Add post command has been executed in Slack. This is a channel that it originated from. This user did that, and this is the username, token, etc., etc., etc. For this, Slack has a wonderful thing called block build, where you can generate the payload, you can make anything here. So what we're going to do is we're going to clear it. We are going to make a model. Inside this model, we are going to put a block, input block, and inside that input block, we're going to put a plain text element, right? So this will be the title of our post, and we're going to put one more plain text element, which will be the description of the post. You can look at it all about surfaces and surfaces. So if we go into the overview here, app surfaces are messages, app surfaces are modals, and app surfaces are app home here. And inside surfaces, there are blocks. Inside blocks, action block, context divider, all this 8 or 10 blocks here. If you're familiar with Laravel Slack integration that comes included with the Laravel project, then you must have seen this action block or context block or section block. There is limited support with Laravel, but there is support. So yeah, uh, and inside all this, we are going to use the input block, which collects the information from users via the block elements. There are so many blocks that are compatible with it. We can use checkboxes, date picker, email input, file, select menus, radio buttons, time pickers, URL input, select menu, multi-select users, etc., etc., etc. And all of them have fields in them. So let's say we are using the plain text input. We're going to go into the documentation of it. Once. internet. Okay. So plain text input. So these are all the fields that are available in the all the parameters that are available in the plain text input. You can do action ID. You can do this is the identifier for your component. We are going to use initial ID multi-line if you're going to make a text box instead of a text area instead of an input field. Minimum length, maximum length. If you're going to focus it on load, you can use that. You can use a placeholder here. There are so many things here. You can go and read it out in the documentation. For now, what we're going to do is we're going to use three properties here. First, we are going to change the labels for it. So these are clear to us what they do and what they are for. Then what we're going to do is we're going to use the multi-line property on it to make it a text area. It takes a boolean value, and Slack will show you if you make any errors here. So if you put a field that does not belong in this, okay, so Slack will tell you that this field is invalid, or we put something here, then invalid additional property and such. Okay, title and description, we'll put this add post. Submit and cancel buttons are here, and we put the action ID of title here, description here, just so there is ease of use when we are fetching the inputs that the user has provided. And inside the block element, this is an input block. See, we're going to give a block ID of title, and same with this, we're going to give it a block ID of description. All right, no errors here. The model is looking okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this. You can make this as a PHP array if you want dynamic components to it. Um, but for now, since this is static, we'll just hard code it and send this as a JSON. So we'll go into the post controller, we'll do payload, and we'll say this. This is our entire payload. Now, what if you want to send some additional data that is not inside this model? Like you want to communicate it after the model has been submitted or whatever. So in that case, what you can do is there is a property called, if you go inside app surfaces models, then there is a property called private metadata, which takes a string and it is preserved within requests. So what we're going to do right here is we're going to introduce a parameter called private metadata, and what we need this for is, see, when Slack sent us that request, it gave us an option of response URL. So this is a webhook which we can use to communicate with that Slack command at any point of time. But the problem is once you submit this, a request that a separate request is originated, right? So we need to preserve this somehow to the next request. Now, how do we do that? We put this whole thing in the private metadata. So we'll do this and just paste this here. Response, sorry, request, private metadata. All right, now we are good to go with the model here. How do we open the model? Now we looked at the views open method. So let's use that. It's a post method, same form, or it can be an application JSON too. So what it needs as a parameter is token that is required. It needs a view payload. View payload is what we created right here. This is the view payload. And a trigger ID that is optional. Since we have it, we'll send it. If you don't have it, don't send it. It's okay. We have a trigger ID, so we'll send it. So let's get the variables in line first. We'll get the token from the table itself. See, this is a separate request, so we don't have the token right here. This is the token, but it won't work. What we need is a OAuth token for the Slack bot, which we saved right here. So that is why we saved the workspace ID, because every workspace will have a maximum of one token for one Slack app. So we have team ID right here. We're going to fetch the Slack token from this. Let's see. So Slack config where Slack workspace ID is request key team ID. Going to do first, and you're welcome to put any additional parameters here, but for this presentation we're going to just do first here. And we need the Slack token from this. We got the token. Now we need is view and a trigger ID. So let's send an HTTP request with token, and we'll put token here. Oops. Post is because it can take application JSON too. So the parameters are view is the payload, and trigger ID is request key trigger ID. And, what URL we need to hit here is this one. Okay, let's see if this works. We don't need to return a response right here. Uh, are we missing anything? We don't need. Okay, we just make a payload here. We do Slack config, we get the token, we send it. Okay. Now let's go back to our Slack app.
You missed a semicolon.
Where, oh, thanks. Where it was. So if we do add post, uh, did I not save it again? What's it? We forgot to import HTTP. Uh, sorry, my RAM is getting full, so it's not showing the errors. I'll just import everything and it should work. And we have a model here. Okay. Add post, write title, and send description. Now, since we added the private metadata here, we can respond to the same model after, even after it has been submitted. So what we did is we completed this step, and now now Slack has executed it. Now we want this additional step and this step. So moving on to this one, where user enters data and submits the model. Where so this is something that Slack is executing for us. This is slash command request. Now what we need to do is we need Slack to send us the data when the user is interacting with it. So for that, we'll go here to our panel and we'll turn interactivity on. So users can interact with it, and we'll put an request URL for interactivity. So let's copy that ngrok URL. There's a space in front, and we'll put it to uh, save post. That's what we're doing. We'll save the changes. And now when we submit it, we'll create a web.php route. Post, save post, post controller, and we'll do save post from Slack. We'll do this. Let's go to this, copy this, and make a function out here, which is this, which takes in a request object as parameter. And for now, we're just going to return something. And okay. So let's see if our request reaches here. Add post. We'll put in some title, we'll put in some description, and this will fail because CSRF is blocking that request. If we see that CSRF token mismatch. So same thing that we did with any post request, we'll go here and we'll add another route that it needs to exclude. And it should work now. See, post from Slack does not exist. Just made it. Of course, we didn't save it. Okay, we got the response. It's not the response that Slack wants, but it is a response. So now comes the really cringe part of the thing. Let's see what the JSON that we got. Okay, we'll use this. This is the JSON that Slack sent us with the data that we want. Okay, let's do it with some pretty data so it's easier to look at. We'll do add post, sample title, and sample description. We'll submit it. It'll fail because OK is not a response that Slack is looking for, but it sends us the payload for it. What the user has. This is our payload. Now, this is a lot of garbage. Okay. Now, our data that we need is inside the payload, the view, okay, the state, values, title, title, and value, sample title. This is a really cumbersome process. I get it, I know. But yeah, so what it does is this is the view, this is our model, this is the values. Values has a block ID, action ID, and that action ID has some value that we need. So let's put them into variables and save this. Okay, keep in mind that everything that is here is inside one more parameter, that is payload, and this all is JSON. So let's JSON decode it for easier access. So we'll say payload equal to uh, JSON decode request का payload, and now we do this. Okay, what was it? Payload view state values title value. Payload view state values title value. This is the reason why we gave action IDs and block IDs in the JSON object right here. Because suppose you don't save it, you don't give it a block ID, then Slack will generate a random string of characters and you'll have a headache determining where to search for an input. So if I didn't give the block ID of title, then it would have generated something like this, and I would have not been able to search where the title is. Okay, title is done. Now we need description. Description, same thing. Description same again, same thing. Values तक same है. उसके बाद description value. So we'll just do description value. Okay. What else do we need? We need user ID. So one thing that we can do right here is we can pick up the ID from user ID. If you see the payload that Slack gives us, it's user ID. And this user ID has been saved into our Slack configs table, which we can use to get the user. So let's get the user as well. User equal to Slack config, where Slack user ID is, sorry, payload dot user, payload arrow user dot array ID first, and we need the user for it because Slack config has a relation with belongs to user. Okay, we have this. Now what we need to save in the post table is user ID, title, description. That's it. So, oh, well, we forgot one thing. If we see in the view in state values, there is private metadata here, which has a value. It's not showing here, but it has a value. Let's see inside there if it is somewhere. Oh, it does not have a value. Why it does not? Something wrong. Private metadata. Oh shit. Response URL here. We need the response URL. So when we do sample title and sample description, we submit it. We should have in view private metadata. We should have the webhook that we need to communicate back with Slack. So let's get the response URL to, and we'll get that in the same way. Payload view, and we do not need to go inside state, I think this time. Yeah, private metadata. Just go private meta. Let's create user slash user arrow posts. Create, and we'll create title, and we'll create description as description. And what we're going to do is we're going to send a HTTP request back to HTTP post on the response URL. This does not need any token or whatever. We can just send it and send the text of post with the title of title is submitted by user name. I think I might be missing something. Let's start it one more time.
You missed a semicolon again.
This does not need a semicolon. We'll just import classes here and put semicolon here. And there should be a message in Slack. So if we do add post and we do something like title from Slack and description from Slack and submit it. It should say post with the title from Slack is submitted by March. And if we go inside our Laravel app, then we should see title from Slack, description from Slack. All right, we can put any number of validations here too. For validations, what we need to do is if we need to send an error, so we'll just put response. What is it? Response action. For that, you can find all of this in the documentation. Okay, you can put response action is error, and we can put this as error, and we'll send the array for this. So title is this. So if we add post again and we write something, uh, I,
Maharsh, unfortunately, we're running out of time. So if you just walk through with the remaining part, just no need to code and just let the audience know how to send error messages. Then we can wrap this up.
oh, we already did that. I'm just going over some extra bits, but if we are running out of time, we can close this. So,
Yeah,
Ines, yeah, let me just get one brief introduction, and then we'll wrap this
okay,
up.
okay.
So essentially, what we did here was uh, we created a new workspace. We created a Slack app. We configured it. Okay, we made a slash command. Okay, we configured the URLs for Slack for slash commands for redirection URLs and for interaction URLs, and then we received those payloads and made the view payload here, and then we sent it back. Slack displayed the model and sent us back the data that the user put in it, and we took that data and saved it inside the database. So if we just go here and we just do text here, so add post, and we'll do something like this. Submit. This has been submitted, and we should have the entry of it right here. All right. Thank you for coming. I know this wasn't the smoothest talk, but thanks for listening to me.
No issues at all, Marsh. Thanks for
Thank
sharing
you.
how to
Thank you.
build Slack apps. So I had sent a link to a form. All those who are interested in the PHP Storm license giveaway, please fill that form. I'll wait for just 1 minute. And in the meantime, if anyone has any questions, please ask now. If anyone has any questions for Maharsh, please ask now. No questions from anyone?
All right.
Okay, I've got only 5 entries this time. Now
Uh,
7. I think people are still filling in. Okay. I'll wait for just 30 more seconds and then I'll run the Wheel of Fortune.
I'll wait too.
Okay, let me share my screen.
Sir, I still need to fill it out.
Please fill it out quickly.
Done.
Okay, just a moment. Okay, can everyone see the Wheel of Fortune? So we
Yep.
have
Yes.
8 entries till now. Let me quickly copy these 8 names and then I'll put them in the Wheel of Fortune. Okay, all the best, everyone. Here we go.
Whatever.
Okay, it seems the speaker got it this time.
Nice. Nice.
Congratulations, Maharsh.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you, Maharsh, for presenting your talk. It was really wonderful. And I believe this was your first talk ever. So you did a
Yeah.
very, very good job. Nicely done.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
guys. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks
everyone.
for listening to me.
And hope to see everyone next month with another speaker, with another talk. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Thanks.